Recording and we're live, John, so when.
Yes. We got 1 minute.
Very formal.
It's getting close.
Oh.
You're getting feedback.
I know, I got it. It was on YouTube.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready. You guys ready? I call the order for the City of Petoskey City Council for November 17th, 2025. I ask that you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Beck, would you please call roll?
Demore,
Present.
Shields.
Present.
Knocktrab,
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Murphy.
Yes, present. We have a quorum. Next to the public hearing, which is the receipt of comments concerning a proposed special assessment role that would spread costs of the downtown area programs and services during 2026, as requested by the Downtown Management Board. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to council at this time?
About the public hearing or in general?
This is for the public hearing for the downtown. You'll have an opportunity in a minute if you have comments. There being none, I call this public hearing closed. Now we'll go to the consent agenda, and it's the adoption of a proposed resolution that would approval of the following items. November 6, 2025 regular session city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge the receipt of certain transactions administratively that have occurred since November 6, 2025. As well as in front of you, here you have the October 2025 revenue and expenditures report. Do you have any questions for the city manager or finance? Then I entertain a possible motion.
So moved with, I just would make one note here that for C as well, we're simply acknowledging receipt of those materials as we are B on page 3.
I have a second. Support. I have a second, a motion from Ms. Demore, a second from Mr. Knobtraub. I go to Sarah Beck, our clerk for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Knocktrab,
Aye.
Shields,
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Murphy.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Now it's public comment. If there's something on the agenda that you can wait for, I ask you to do that. If there is some other subject or item that you'd like to speak to council, please step forward. And I ask that you address council rather than the audience. Anybody wish to speak? Sir, come on down.
Yes, there are two things. One is on the chicken ordinance, but I can wait for that. But I understand there's some concern still about trying to find a lower cost way of repairing the wheelway. My feeling on that is that you've already tried that. You did a study a number of years ago. You came up with options that were still very costly. They weren't terribly safe and nobody liked them. So I would encourage you to not spend any more time, effort, and money pursuing that. You have a pretty good plan in place. There's some momentum to continue with that plan. I agree that the city should not bear the full burden of that cost, but you've provided good leadership in getting to this point. I think you can continue to provide good leadership to gather the partners and find some way to figure out how to pay to get the job done right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do we get his name? Larry Dyer.
Larry. I think we had that, can I ask? I believe we don't ask address, we just ask for name only. Thank you, Larry. Anyone else wish to speak to council at this time? Sir.
Is this on? All right. Good evening, council. My name is Brian Tang, and I am a part of Petoskey Youth Advisory Council, and I am a resident of Petoskey. On Monday, November 10th, the Petoskey Youth Advisory Council met at Sky's the Limit Flower Shop to make flower arrangements for the veterans. We made astounding over 300 plus arrangements, and then we delivered them to a location of the veterans breakfast the following day. The morning of November 11th, many members of Petoskey Youth Advisory Council were gifting the arrangements to over 400 plus attendees. And the leftovers arrangements went to veterans at nursing homes and the American Legion. Thank you.
Thank you. That was, I know council and staff are very appreciative of your efforts, stepping forward, coming up with something that really matters to the people involved, the veterans. So our hats off. Please pass our thank you back to all of the members that participated, would you? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak from public comments at this time? There being none, I'm now going to turn it over to City Manager Horn for his city manager updates.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very brief report this evening. You're going to hear me ad nauseum here in a few minutes. But just a few updates overall. One final week of leaf pickup is scheduled this week. So Tuesday and Wednesday this week is our our last round in all 4 wards. So we'll be making the circuit all around the city tomorrow, as well as in all 4 wards Wednesday. We will kind of evaluate where we are at as a community and make decisions on, potential dates moving forward. But as I looked at the community over the weekend, I think we're in pretty good shape. We should be in pretty good shape after this week, but we'll see how it goes. The snow and the cooler weather have certainly dropped those last remaining stubborn leaves. So we will be doing that this week. A few additional public meetings this week. Downtown Management Board meets tomorrow night in the community room. On their agenda is discussion and recommendation on sign ordinance regulations. The Planning Commission asked them to review halo signs and illuminated signs as far as timing goes in downtown. So the DMB will be reviewing that tomorrow, as well as setting their meeting schedule for 26 and then going through their strategic plan with another review and discussion of their strategic plan. Again, that's scheduled for tomorrow at 6. Planning Commission meets Wednesday, November 19th in the community room at 6 o'clock. They will be considering or will be having a public hearing. This is for the proposed outdoor lighting ordinance, dark sky ordinance. The block at Petoskey has petitioned for a PUD amendment. This would be for the construction of carports and garages. As I've talked to Great Lakes Capital and their team, they have a significant interest in adding some carports / garages to the development. So that will be on for a discussion and potentially setting a public hearing for that in the future. So it'll be again on the Planning Commission agenda Wednesday. They will be also setting their meeting schedule for 2026 and then discussing the community character survey results as well. As we're getting into the holiday season, a lot of things happening downtown that I wanted to bring to your attention. Ladies' Night Out that's not this week. That's November 21st. That's Friday, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. A lot of specials downtown going on. A lot of retailers are putting specials and sales out. So we encourage people to take a look at the website to get more details for that. Holiday open house is scheduled for Friday, December 5. This is from 6 to 9 p.m. Always a highlight of the year. And following week is the holiday parade. This is December 13th, starting at 10 a.m. Going through obviously our wonderful downtown. A lot of things on the agenda. As the holiday season kind of gears up, we spent last week putting stringing lights and garland and wreaths downtown. So the town is looking very festive. So we are looking forward to our holiday season. Any questions for me as far as my report goes?
Any questions? Public have any questions? Very good. Thank you, City Manager Horn, for your report. Now, I'm bringing forward an appointment, consideration for the Downtown Management Board. It's for Adam Kazimowski. He is, co-owners of, Gypsy Vodka. He states that he would like to work on, fostering, more collaboration between business, residents, and city leadership. Feels he brings experience to the board. He's been in the city of Petoskey, lives in the city over on, I believe, State Street. So he brings in, he wants to work on that. He believes parking is real important, and I did sit down, as I do with anybody that applies for a board, do a time interview with him. And he's very positive about what's going on downtown and says, let's just continue to do a great job. He also commented in his thing, he loved what April is doing with the parking, so apparently he really is positive. Yes,
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion to have Adam Kazanowski serve on the Parking and Events Committee.
I second the motion.
have a motion from Lindsay Walker and a second from Mr. Shields. Any other discussion, council? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker.
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
Demore.
Aye.
Knocktron.
Aye.
Murphy.
Yes, hi. Captain, congratulations, Adam, and if you're not out there listening, congratulations. I know you have a board meeting, I believe, tomorrow night,
Mhm.
and I did let him know that it would be good for him to start attending immediately. Next is the old business and its adoption of a proposed resolution that would confirm the proposed special assessment role. I'll turn that over to City Manager Horn.
Yep, so this is essentially setting our special assessment role. You can see in your packet, the role is been compiled based on the activity tonight. If council wishes to proceed with this assessment, the resolution would confirm council's approval of the role and direct us as staff to certify the role and distribute the special assessments accordingly and invoice property owners within the next 30 days. So that's on for your consideration. This is, I believe, our fourth discussion on this topic. So the rates have remained the same from what we talked about a few meetings back. So 22 cents per square foot, first floor space, 6 cents per square foot for floors other than first floors, and then 6 cents per square foot of area on vacant and buildable lots. So those are the rates that have been,
What is the cost for a vacant?
0.066 cents per square foot. And I would just, I know this has come up in the past, here a few meetings back. If we really want to dive into any of these rates, I think the time to do that would be really any time, over the summer, before we start getting into kind of having these discussions. If you want to have us as staff look at any of these rates, make some recommendations to the Downtown Management Board. I know there was some discussion about vacant land and what that rate was set at, but certainly we can have those discussions as we move forward into 26.
Council. Comments, questions, discussions? If not, a motion.
A comment, I looked at it before, and when you look at the individual parcels, it seemed pretty fair to me, and even there's not much vacant land. And this vacant land is calculated based on area of the land as opposed to the square foot of the buildings. So it's a little bit not comparing apples to apples between the square foot and the square foot of the area. And I'd be happy to make a motion to adopt it as presented here.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
I have a motion from Mr. Knobtrob and a second from Ms. Walker. Any other discussion, council?
Just for the sense of clarity, because I just wanted to be clear, in addition to what Mr. Knocktop had shared, that vacant land means vacant land. It doesn't mean vacant buildings. Vacant buildings are at the square footage of if they're on the first, second, or third floor or ground floor. So just for clarity.
Good clarification. Any other discussion? Does the public wish to weigh in on this at this time? That's nothing. I go to Miss Beck for roll.
Naktrab,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
Murphy.
Alright, motion passes 5-0 for the assessment. Now we go to new business. It's the presentation of the city's recommended 2026 annual budget and adoption of a resolution that was scheduled a December 1st, 2025 public hearing to receive comments concerning the proposed budget and property tax millage rates that have been recommended for fiscal year 2026. I turn it over to our city manager, Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess before we get started officially, I just want to thank Audrey and Bridget in the finance department. This is Sarah in my office, really all the department heads that assisted in compiling their respective departmental budgets. This is for a small workforce, this is a big undertaking that I don't consider lightly. This is obviously a very important role of city council, which obviously we're going to spend as much time as you want on this. This is obviously our first discussion. I'll go through the schedule here in a second, but I understand the importance of this document, and this is your budget, and this is just proposed at this point. So we'll take your feedback, incorporate your feedback accordingly. We want you to be proud of this document at the end and make sure that it incorporates all of the city of Petoskey's needs in your mind. So that's what we've tried to do in this document. Looking at, all potential uses of these taxpayer resources and kind of be good stewards of that. So just to give you an overview of the budget schedule itself. So today is our first reading of the budget, if you will. Publishing a notice of the public hearing after this meeting, potentially setting that public hearing for December 1st for second reading and having the public hearing and a potential adoption of the budget at that time. Obviously, we will continue to go at your pace. If you would like to prolong that to another meeting, we can certainly do that based on your guidance and input. This budget has been placed on our city website since Tuesday, November 14, with a website that folks can chime in and give feedback to. And to date, as I sit here today, we haven't received any feedback, but we're still early in that process. But hopefully this document addresses many of the action plan priorities of city council that are listed here: parks and public spaces, infrastructure, economic development, downtown development, stability or sustainability, affordable workforce housing, and community engagement. These were the 2023-2025 action plan priorities. My recommendation to city council as we flip the calendar to 26 and we have a new board in place would be to kind of cast a vision for the next 2 years on the 2026 to 2028 action plan priorities. As I looked at this document, I think we've accomplished quite a bit on these action plan priorities and have really tried to drill down on some of these things. Certainly we haven't addressed everything that's been listed here, but I think we've made significant progress on these action plan priorities. So I look forward to our discussion on how we want to proceed, over the next couple of years in refining this document and maybe even replacing it completely. So some general overview of the budget itself. The 2025, the current budget was just over $40 million, $40,438,000. The 2026 operating and capital budget is just under 40,000 at 39,968,700. A big reason for that, the big reason for the drop in the overall budget is 2025 was a very heavy year on grants. just for instance, in 2025, our budget for grant revenue was 2,156,700. And that was broken down by the Maple Block Flats. That was a $1 million grant that we administered. The slope restoration, design, engineering, that was 800,000. The Mr. Chill grant was 500,000. We had 2 rounds of Emmett County ARPA allocations at 50,000 each. The Park Avenue project was grant funds as well, and then the housing readiness grant that we received for the zoning work was in 2025. Some of that will carry over to 2026, but we'll see a significant drop off in grant admin revenue coming forward, just under $1 million. That includes a small allocation for Jaws of Life. We have a small allocation for public safety training that the state conveys. The Mr. Chill grant will still be with us. We did get an extension on that to May of 2026. So we've gone through a lot of the administrative burden, if you will, to get that out the door. So we're working with a number of folks to get funds allocated, and I'll be giving an overview of that hopefully at the next meeting on where that all stands. But so a lot of that, a big chunk of that will still remain in 2026 that will facilitate. The Eagle Brownfield grant, this is the former Amico station. That was a $315,000 Eagle Brownfield grant to clean up that site for potential development. We will be facilitating that. Looking at an Eagle Land and Water grant for the marina project. And then we received a small allocation from Hestia Women's Giving Circle for the Petoskey Youth Advisory Council as well in 2026. And I would just say, feel free to stop me at any point. You don't need to wait till I'm done. If you see something that you have initial questions or feedback on, that's why we're here. Audrey's here. We are more than interested to take your questions. And I will also say, this is a lot of information. My recommendation to any or each of you would be, let's schedule some one-on-one time with Audrey and myself in the next week or 10 days. Go through your questions at any depth you would like. And so you have a good comfort level on where you're at with the budget itself. So I would encourage you to reach out, schedule some time to have more, maybe some one-on-one discussions. So,
Mr. Shields. Thanks, Manager Horn. I had a question with thank you. Yep, question with the housing readiness grant. That was a 2025. It was back in 2024, I believe in February 2024, we agreed on the ordinance for that grant. And my understanding is that it was expiring by January of 2026. But I also know that we have not at council have seen any of those zoning changes and some of those grant requirements. So do you know, or what is the plan for that? Is that, are we asking for extension? Is that going into 2026 as well?
yeah, that's correct. The grant went through January of 26. We did get an email from them asking status and if there was any desire to extend that further. They were interested in potentially extending that opportunity to us. So we had filed for an extension of that in conversations with our planner. So we are extended through the end of April, actually. You know, when we talked this afternoon, Councilmember Shields, I thought it was March, but I looked again and it's through the end of April is our extension of this grant opportunity. So that's where it stands currently.
And how much has been expended of?
We're about 75% expended on that grant currently.
Thank you.
Continuing the overview of the budget from a personnel standpoint, obviously that's a significant cost in our budget. We are proposing a 3% cost of living allowance for our non-union staff members. as you know, we use the medical plan hard caps in the city based on individual needs, whether it's a single person, individual plus one, or family coverage. So we use the state caps that are provided by the state tax treasury. We did receive a 2.9% increase in these caps, which is significantly better than we received last year, which was under 1, wasn't it?
2/10.
Yeah. So that is the current total. We have 3 healthcare plan options for staff to choose from. We, the city, pays the premiums up to that state cap amount. The employee would be responsible for premiums above that cap limit. Plans include dental and basic dental. Employees can choose to opt up on that and pay for that premium dental package. There's also vision coverage. This is a high deductible health plan with a health savings account. So if premiums fall below the state cap, the city does contribute that difference into the employee's HSA, which they manage. Payments have been historically made each year to employees' HSA accounts as premiums have been under the state cap. We are getting very close and it's getting tight on those. So we don't quite know what that's going to look like yet in 26, but it's going to be a little tighter. I would say we did transition from Blue Cross to Priority last year. We'd been a Blue Cross member for, I don't know, 8-10 years maybe prior to that.
Right, I think for the history of the city minus 2018, we moved to Priority Health for 1 year.
Yeah. So we were going to see a significant bump from Blue Cross. We reached out, and as we do every year, our Cortez does our admin does a bid and looks at what other agencies can provide, and Priority came back much more reasonably priced than Blue Cross. And then we were able to lock in the rate for a second year. So we are locked in for 2026 at a rate of 9.9% increase, which again is, I think was a good move. It was a smart move then. Obviously this will be our last year having a locked in rate. So we'll kind of see what 27 looks like, but we are locked in with Priority Health for 26 at a 9.9% increase.
Yeah.
This budget does include,
Mayor.
Ms. Walker.
Oh, thank you. Can I ask a question? Have you, since going from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Priority, have you heard any feedback from staff about being able to find providers in network or any difficulties there? I'm just wondering, curious from another governmental perspective.
We have had most comments and responses and feedback from staff have been very positive, especially within the prescriptions have been much cheaper than they were with Blue Cross.
Good.
One issue with a provider, and it was a counselor,
Okay.
that a certain counselor wasn't covered and they had to jump through hoops in order to get that specific counselor for a dependent.
Okay.
But other than that, I did not hear any issues with those not in network.
Excellent. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it.
I have just quick, I got a little conflict in what you said and versus what I understood. As an employee that are non-union, do we pay 100% of any of these categories, if whatever they happen to be, or is it just the single?
No, it's 100% union and non-union.
Okay, so if I'm working as an employee and I want a family coverage, I get paid 100% of the family coverage?
Yes, you do.
So it's regardless of, it's not a maximum of single and you pay everything above that?
No.
Okay. Pretty good.
Other question?
One of the things I get asked quite often in my office is for any type of internship possibilities. And I would say that there's no shortage of work that would assist me, would assist Sarah in my office. So I have added a part-time paid internship opportunity in my budget. This would be, I don't even know what we would have, probably, I would say like $16 an hour type of thing. But there has been a few folks that have expressed interest from the college in town. I would certainly like the opportunity to be able to pay forward kind of what we do here every day and kind of pour into somebody, not just that, but we could certainly use the added assistance as well. So I do have funds in the budget for that. It's obviously your decision if you'd like to pull that back out, but I think it would be a nice opportunity to provide a young person early in their career.
Mayor, I wanted to make a comment on that one.
Yeah.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Shane, I've always thought about or envisioned a potential intern through the Catalyst communities through actually Michigan Municipal League facilitates the Catalyst communities for Eagle, and they assign interns usually throughout the year. There's usually by the quarter, I believe, maybe it's quarterly. They have different kinds of folks that can work in local governments around sustainability issues. And so I was wondering if maybe part of an intern in the office of the administrator could be like the volunteer renewable energy program and kind of inserting some life into that in terms of doing some specific outreach to get more businesses and residents signed up for the volunteer renewable energy program is a way to kind of gauge our public's interest in 100% renewable and getting us there by 2035. So I was hopeful maybe that could be combined with that, because I know that it usually requires a match as well for that local representation of government to have a Catalyst community intern. So I was hoping that maybe there could be a dual partnership there if you've already allotted some money to the budget for 2026.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the same program. I did apply for I don't know if it was that program or not, but I did apply 2 years ago for a program similar to that, and we weren't obviously selected, but I can certainly look into that again and see what options are out there.
But I'm very supportive of an idea of an intern in the administrative
Yeah.
role.
I just like the idea of potentially keeping it local with, someone here that is going to North Central, someone that's invested in our community already. And then, but certainly if it's someone that we can specialize in, and address some of our sustainability initiatives or assist us with that effort, that's certainly an option as well.
Thank you.
I think it's important to kind of put out there what this budget, in my opinion, does not address or lacks in addressing. In discussions with Director Carr, he believes that he could use one additional public safety officer, especially as we'll be bringing on significant number of housing units here by July between the block and lofts and Del Rey and a few other projects, the Victory Square as well. So we have a number of additional housing units that'll be coming on board. Director Carr mentioned that we're spending a significant amount of overtime now, making sure we have shift coverages. He believes he could stand to use one. We have a couple of retirements that are around the corner here. I did not place any money in the budget for this added position. This particular budget is fairly tight. And so I didn't add that number or didn't add that position in the budget. I still believe with a community of our size or a staff of our size, about 76 full-time, we don't have a full-time dedicated human resource professional. We do a great job with what we do. And we have great staff that it's part of their responsibilities. But I think there's some ways that we could continue that effort with a full-time human resource professional, as well as a community or economic development individual. We currently, I believe that's a gap as well. Keep going here.
I think we need to address the public safety officer need. I think what we need to do from now on, when we have a development such as have gone into town here, I think we need to ensure that we have an increased tax collection that will come back to the city to help cover those areas. Right now, with the block, with lofts, I don't believe we're getting any real taxes other than what was initially gotten from those properties for how many years for for block?
It's a 22-year.
22 years, we're gonna get no city taxes from that project.
We'll get taxes.
We'll get taxes, but the same amount of what we had been getting. I believe what we need to do is write into contracts like that, that we will collect some taxes on that on a yearly basis in order to cover fire, police, inspections, people coming and going with a meter charging, getting collected, new meters for their apartments and stuff. I think we need to look forward ahead to start making sure that people that come to town with these large developments are supporting the infrastructure that we need for the city. One of those areas is public safety and fire. So that was all I wanted to add for the
That's a good,
future.
good point, Mayor. Thank you. Just wanted to, and I put a brief note in the introduction. This was too big of a event to not from a historical standpoint. I didn't want somebody reading this document 25 years from now and not understand what we went through in March of 2025. So obviously, we don't need to rehash it, but it was a significant undertaking. This is current expenses. So FEMA has two different categories that we're tracking: a debris cleanup. So that's everything that fell as a result of the storm, all the clearing, all the chipping. That you can see that adds up on just under $1 million in total cleanup of this event. And then they also have what's called a Category B, which is emergency protective measures. This would be our out of town crews that came up to assist us. This would be helping to cover our cost and bringing them up for that, as well as some other items. We weren't sure initially if this was going to be included in discussions with FEMA. They just said, put it in. Well, it's still, I guess, to be determined if we're going to see Category B reimbursed, but the total amount is just under 1.2 million. If we project out, we're anticipating just over about $825,000 in reimbursement at 75% which is what FEMA's reimbursement rate is. So just wanted to update you on that.
Mr. Moore.
We have any projections on the degree of likelihood of reimbursement and failing reimbursement? Is this built into the budget or would that be coming out of fund balance? Thank you.
Yeah, the likelihood of reimbursement for A is 100%. We're going to get that. We just don't know if we're going to get all of Category B reimbursed at that 75% level. So on the second part of your question, Audrey, I don't know if you understand.
It is not, the reimbursement is not built into the budget because it wasn't tied up enough. Jason Fade recently had confirmation, from the state that looks positive. But no, it is not included in any grant revenue for next year.
So that would come from fund balance.
Well, this has already all been expended, this 1.168.
Right. So it was, okay, where did that come from? Our budget or fund balance?
Cash.
Yeah,
Cash, yes.
several different accounts.
Yes, funds, almost every fund was affected in some way or another. Some, it's more, it stands out more in the general fund under the solid waste section. Under DPW, you'll see, that is really higher than it should be this year. So that one will be a budget amendment this year. Streets departments, because the project on Howard was not completed and part of it is pushed until 2026. That budget does not really reflect the expense of the storm as it would as if that project was completed.
So if this reimbursement comes through, it'd be reallocated to those funds as it was drawn out?
Correct. It would be a percentage hitting different funds
But, and I take
based
it,
on the category.
those are amounts of money that have last year's budget, 2025's budget. There is some of those budget funds were not, lines were not completely utilized. So there's money left over for those lines.
Right, well, some lines,
$1 million.
some lines were over, but
Okay.
it's over, the six funds.
So just to be clear, that the 1,168,000 is already in the expenses for the year,
Mhm,
reflected in all your commentary throughout the budget on 2025.
mhm.
So if we get this 825, that will be come in as income in 26. If we get the 825 in 26,
Yes,
that'll be a somewhat of, I'm gonna call it a little bit of a windfall for us in our budget, in our 26 budget.
correct.
And so will when will we actually know? Because it would seem to me part of that ought to be comfortable, that we ought to be thinking about that in the 26 budget.
I just don't know when
We
we
don't
would
know.
receive it, because it's
We know
FEMA.
something.
It's FEMA.
But you said the 956 is guaranteed,
75%
75% of
the
that.
956
So
has been,
can't we mentally think that at least 75% of 956 is going to be
I have been,
income, but it's not in here. It's not in your budget.
have been, yes.
It's not in your budget.
It is not reflected in
Okay.
here.
Okay, all right.
I did not want to assume.
Okay, when you know what happens.
I know.
So it could ultimately, if that came through, would go into general fund
No.
after the year's out.
Some of it would go in
Very
general,
little in general.
some in streets and utility funds.
Okay.
Hmm.
Ms. Walker?
Thank you. I have another question. Do we know how the money will be dispersed? Will it be direct to municipality, or will there be a county responsible for disbursement of funds for category A?
Directly.
Direct reimbursement? And then will it be the same thing, hopefully, for category B as well, direct reimbursement?
I think so. I believe so.
Thank you.
Continue on.
So a few things from our capital improvement plan that was approved based on the direction that this budget was going. And you'll see here in a minute when I present the general fund in more detail, but I had some concerns where the general fund was at, so I felt like we may need to consider some changes to the CIP as it pertains to the general fund. You may recall there was 50,000 in the budget for City Hall key fob security systems. This was to kind of continue out what we did with the Emmett County ARPA funds that we matched. I think there's enough in that plan or in that budget that we can address most of our critical doors and infrastructure with those remaining funds. So I don't think we're going to need to dive into that anymore. I would say building that system out is still a priority for me, but we may have to take a little bit of a pause in 26. So I have removed that 50,000 from the building and grounds budget. In parks and special facilities, the slope restoration, the bypass that we talked about has been reduced from 100,000 to 50,000, but I'll just leave it at that, and you all can direct me if you want that 50 removed out of the budget as well. I know we had some discussions about it, but I'll kind of leave it there. But for now, it's been reduced to 50,000. We have a pretty significant need with this dry weather we've experienced over the last few years of doing a dredging project in the marina. We had a number of complaints from boaters in the marina about their bottoming out, if you will. So a lot of silt, obviously, as you can imagine, comes down the Bear River, and when it comes to the mouth, it kind of widens out, obviously, and it drops the silt in place. And so we have had a buildup of silt over the course of several years, to a point where we think we need to do some dredging work in the marina. So we would like to transition our Marina Pier B electrical upgrade project, which was scheduled for 300,000 in 26, transition those funds into a marina dredging project at the same amount. And we were also likely will receive a land and water grant associated with that as well that will pair with that. Public art was $60,000. We did increase that to 90,000 only because we have about 30,000 remaining that'll carry forward into 2026 that we weren't able to spend in 2025 just based on the time that it takes to build this type of structure. So we paid for half of it in 25. We'll have half remaining in 26. So we're just carrying that remaining 30,000 over into 2026. So that budget will increase to 90,000 with that carry forward. I have for now removed the sub area plan for Ward 4. This was 55,000. I'm hopeful that we can maybe get some pre-development funds from RRC that may be able to bring that back forward. My thought process was we'll be completely built out at the block in July. We'll kind of know after that, give it some time to see how things are flowing from a traffic standpoint and see how the project there, how the project at the lofts is moving forward. And then we can potentially address it either in 27 or late in 26 if we can get RRC supporting funds for that project. So for now, we have pulled that out of the CIP.
First, Mr. Knobtraub.
I have a process question as we're going through here. We're having a lot of ads and deducts and comments like public safety or interns and what, trying to understand, how do we actually get through the decision-making on these? Do we all just, I mean, how do you decide what we're gonna do? Or would we?
This is staff's.
Is it all or nothing when we?
No,
approve it?
not at all. You can redline any and all of it.
But who? We have to vote on
Yeah,
that?
Process.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to,
Need 3 supports in order to keep it there.
in whichever way it is.
Or 3 support to eliminate it.
Got it. And at what point do we do that?
I would think at the next
Be
meeting.
the next one, but you can, give me feedback at any point. And we'll obviously take that and.
We gotta get rid of this. We don't want to buy a circus elephant this year with our money.
Oh, man.
And you have 3 people say no. He will take it, he'll scratch it off the list. How's that? The elephant, by the way, so if it's on here, leave it, okay? Next, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question about Marina PRB upgrades. Can you remind me, Shane, were we gonna do something to Marina PRB that had to do with the electrical upgrades, but was only necessary because of high water? And now we're doing the Maria dredging project because of low water?
I'm not sure if it was because of high water. That was predates me, so I'm not sure. I know
What I'm remembering is on Pier A, I believe, they had to put like conduit in because the electrical was was in danger of like being submerged because the water was so high at the time. I'm just trying to remember, and I believe in a trade-off. Obviously, if one was done with the intention of like high water times, that makes sense, but now we're in a different situation and that was based on feedback from boaters. I read that in the notes for the budget. I guess I was just wondering if,
My understanding was that electrical was all completed on all of those piers
okay.
to make them totally safe, so you're not gonna get, nobody's gonna get shocked. Is that correct? That
Yeah,
was already handled.
we do spend a lot of time on Pier B with, and the same thing happens in Magnus Park with, folks have higher end campers, they have higher end boats that are pulling more demand for electricity than maybe they were doing in the 80s and 90s. So the equipment is getting bigger, which puts more of a strain on infrastructure. So we're getting called out in the evening and in the weekends when it's busy out here because power went out. And so we're flipping breakers. We're trying to get people connected in other ways. So it is an issue that we need to address at some point, but
Okay.
But it's not a safety issue.
No, no.
And then my second question, Mayor, if I may, sorry.
Please.
So then the other one, the sub area plan for Ward 4, was that like a traffic study? Because what I remember is that's now designated as a neighborhood enterprise zone. And I don't know if there was discussion about assessing the type of businesses that are on Standish Avenue, if that's what it was about, or was it about a traffic study?
Traffic was a small portion of the study, but mostly it was just like a corridor plan, looking at what the uses are currently, what that corridor could, you know, be reimagined as in the future, and try to lay out a kind of a mini master plan for that stretch.
And
is
wouldn't
kind
it
of what-
piggyback, or couldn't that with the neighborhood enterprise zone dedication of that area, or being under the auspice of an NEZ?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, it
know
might
if that
be
really correlates
mingling.
necessarily, but
Okay.
certainly this is just
Let's wait
an
and see.
option. We don't need to necessarily do it. If there's desire to push it back or put it back in, we can certainly do that. But I was just looking at any and all opportunities to make this more of a kind of a balanced document.
Thank you.
I think it'd be good to wait until we see what is the traffic
Sure.
flow. Is it an issue? Do we need to start looking at a stoplight? Do we need to start looking at, what do we need to look at? And I don't know if we can determine that until we start seeing what is the traffic pattern? Are they all going up Sheridan? Are they all coming up Emmett? Mr. Shields?
Thanks, Mayor. That makes sense, but I also think there's a need to be proactive in these situations. We know the numbers that are coming in, and I think, well, as someone who celebrates and applauds this gentle density that we're having here, I think that it needs to be corresponded with helping the flow of traffic, and that is overall well-being is something that traffic will have a key impact on, whether they're receptive to continuing this type of gentle density. So I'd be more proactive with this. And my question for Manager Horn is this type of sub-area plan, we have a specific budget for like a consultant, but if we had a full-time planner, would this be something that person could take on during their part of their job?
No, I still think it would be something we would reach out to a consultant to assist with, whether we had a in-house planner in or not. I think it's more of a specialized area.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Hey, hopefully this question's not too in the weeds, but when I was reading the budget, under the general fund, it talks about State Waterways Commission funding. And you mentioned a land water grant, and I don't know if that's the same thing, but it said in there that in exchange for half of the marina slips being designated as transient wells, that the State Waterways Commission agreed to consider funding up to 50% of future marina capital improvements. So I don't know if either the electricity or the dredging might be considered that, but I just was wondering if anybody had an eye toward that.
Yeah, we certainly believe that we would qualify for grant funds for the dredging project and the Marina Pier B upgrade. So I don't think that's going to be necessarily difficult to achieve at this point, but
Is that,
it's in the budget. We're banking on that $150,000, so it's in the budget.
is that the same as the land water grant though? Is that the same source?
It's land and water management, so I don't know.
I think it comes through as Department of Natural Resources when we received the grants for the
Okay.
marina in the past.
Our,
But it comes from the state.
our portion of it comes from the TIF.
No, not for the marina. It's a 50-50.
Okay. Questions or move on? Move on?
So again, continuing overview, we do, just for the sake of maybe council member Nachtrab, we do provide and have provided a MERS. This is MERS is Municipal Employee Retirement System. So this is a pension program. In the years in the years past, it's been a defined benefit, which has been in Petoskey is not alone in this. In many cases, pensions became got underwater from an accrued liability standpoint. So many communities were transitioning from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan, which we did as well several years ago. We still invest obviously in our benefit to make sure it remains viable. Over the last 8 years, we've invested, we've obviously made our normal payments, and then it went above and beyond, investing just over 6.6 million over the last 8 years in additional contributions to make sure that we're keeping our unfunded accrued liability under control, if you will. The 2026 budget does consider an additional above and beyond payment of $400,000 to keep that, again, that accrued liability in check, if you will.
It's, you want to know what it is?
No, I thought I read in here was 175,000. Am I talking something else? I thought in the write-up here, it was going to be lowered to 175,000 this year.
No, it's a total of 400,000.
1,000, that's divided up.
And it's coming from different funds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
The
maybe,
175 is coming from.
Okay.
A fund.
Yeah.
We are funded
Oh.
around 90-some percent.
It's 90% currently. You'll see that. I have a slide on
Oh,
that
okay.
here in a second.
All right.
No, you're good. So contributions for that additional payment will come from the general fund, the general street fund, and the enterprise funds as well. So the current budget, 2025 budget, has a millage rate of 12.809 mils. This is proposed to be rolled back to 12.5119 mils in 2026. The Headley Amendment, we all know the history of that. If taxable value for the year exceeds the rate of inflation, tax levies must be rolled back to the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is less. So we as a Michigan municipality get to deal with that and the issues resolving around that. For 2026, the taxable value is estimated to rise about 5%, just over $779 million in taxable value. Really, we still have a very strong real estate market. Currently, the state of Michigan inflation rate multiplier is 2.7% for 2026, which will require us to roll back our millage, as I mentioned previously, based on the Headley calculations that Audrey performs. Any taxable value from new construction, however, is excluded from that rollback as well. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Mr. Moore.
So I have a few MERS questions. So first of all, it was my understanding when I read this that we were reducing our payment amount this year. Is that right?
Not I think it was 400 this
It was
year.
400
as well.
last year. It was 400 this year,
Mhm.
400 this year.
Okay. Then I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, in the past, we did $1 million for 4 years in a row, I think. Then we decreased it to 600,000 and now 400,000 the last couple of years. I think that's the timing of it.
So that sort of follows to my next question. So do these actuarial assumptions continue to fluctuate, impacting how our annual payments impact the MERS percentage funded? Because when you look at 23 to 24, we
Mhm.
went from 92% to 90%. Is that a function of those actuarial assumptions?
That is correct. Based on their investments, service fees, costs of administrating the plant, how many people have retired, how many remain, how many people have passed away and no longer receive it.
Okay. And then my third question or statement, so the 2021 action plan goal was to achieve 90% MERS funding in all divisions. That's been met. Given that, I'm curious why we haven't considered updating our funding goal to achieve a higher percentage of MERS funding. So that's kind of maybe a question for anybody.
Yeah, that could be certainly a action priority update for the 26 to 28 action plan update that we just talked about. If council wants to go to a higher tier, we can certainly consider that.
Is that for yet this year for 26 budget? Are we talking about? Are you talking about possibly for the 2026 budget? Adding higher amounts into this?
It's built into the 26 budget, an above and beyond contribution of 400,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you speaking of wanting more money or? We're at about, I think it's 3.9 right now, isn't it?
3.9.
Million?
Yes.
Will be unfunded? Yeah,
Unfunded, our unfunded.
yeah,
is
3.8, 3.9 million. Mm-hmm.
We were 9.4 million or 8.9 million at one.
In
8
2016.
years ago. And we paid it off to get it down. So we pay the amount that is due. And we've been paying on top of that. And we started out 4 years with a million. Because we were at 67% funded.
Hmm.
It's kind of like your federal debt. It's your city debt on retirement for these individuals. City manager.
Next slide.
Questions?
So again, the estimated taxable value for 26 is right around just under $780 million. That's about a 5% increase from 25. So this chart is in your budget binder as well, but just for review purposes, the cleanup millage is solid waste, rubbish, leaves, brush, recycling program, the right-of-way, our public improvements within the street right-of-way, sidewalks, et cetera. Typically, as in years past, city council formally sets the rates in June. Our recommendation is the rates to stay the same as 2025. I think it's interesting to run the scenario of how Headley impacts, our budget, and not saying that we're going to do anything about it, but the charter cap for our general fund is 10 mils. We're down to 6.8650 mils currently, which is a 3 mil difference. What's the impact of a 3 mil change? It's about $2.5 million. So it's not insignificant. It's a significant amount of money that we are not able to bring and provide services to our residents for. The Act 425 agreement, as you know, is our intergovernmental agreement with Resort Township, where we transferred Bay Harbor development into the city. The city returns annual revenues to Resort Township in the amount equivalent to 2.5 mils. So for 26, that's about $940,000 that goes back to Resort Township as part of that agreement.
Questions on the page?
Just getting specifically to the general fund highlights of the budget. So you can see the 2025 budget anticipated a revenue over expenditures to the tune of about $550,000. We're estimating that to be a little less than that. Our revenues were slightly higher. Our revenue estimates are slightly higher. Our expenditures are slightly higher, which is going to result in a use or a deposit into fund balance to the tune of almost $440,000. Still a very hefty amount. Proposed for 26 based on, again, our grant revenue reduction. Our revenues are going to be down in 26 to just over $12 million. Our expenditures will be down from 2025 from 12.7 to 12.2. That does, between those revenues and expenditure numbers, it does result in a planned use of fund balance to the tune of $252,300. As we all know, this is a budget. This hopefully, when we get to this point next year, we will not be having this conversation where we're pulling down fund balance, but it is there. That's the way it's set up currently. The grant revenue reduction from 25 was significant. I will just make a commentary on state revenue sharing is again flat for kind of the second year in a row. So we're about $729,000 that comes in from state shared revenue. It's about a $4,500 actual decrease from 2025. So it would be just my commentary. It would be nice if the state kind of supported local units a little bit more effectively than they have in years past. I know this has been a worn out tune, if you will, on local units of government, kind of getting the short straw. We all know that there was some reallocation of road dollars with sales tax. Unfortunately, that impacted state revenue sharing. So we were one of the agencies that felt the brunt of some of that change of the state sales tax as far as gasoline and road dollars go. So that's that commentary, I guess. In other communities, I would just say, like in Tennessee, they gave options to communities that communities could, it was called a local option sales tax. So if you wanted to add a certain percent of sales tax that stayed in your community, you could go to the voters and do that. And that revenue stayed in your community to do things in your community. Unfortunately, in the state of Michigan, we don't have that option to do that. But that's what a lot of states have that, and it's very attractive to be able to address some things within your community. To me, if you're buying goods and services in your community, that money should stay in your community. So that it's just been a little bit of a challenging sequence of events with state shared revenue. It sometimes feels like the state uses that as a way to balance their budget on the backs of local units, and that's, I think, unfortunate.
Mr. Moore.
So kind of following up on that area right there. So I understand constitutional revenue sharing's decreased, statutory revenues remain static. But at the legislature, they sort of did this thing where the public safety revenue sharing grants and the road funding. So I'm curious, do we yet know the impact in Petoskey of the 2026 public safety revenue sharing grant allocations that are linked to violent crime data, which is not great for us? And then the impact of road funding, those supplementals, the extent to which any of that balances out that state revenue sharing decrease.
From a public safety standpoint, I think we're about 16,000, 15,000.
Yeah, I estimated 15,000 base, and the state year is October through September, so we always have to estimate the last quarter of our calendar year. But they gave some estimates, they provided some estimates. So, yeah, 15 or 16,000 public safety. And then within the streets fund, major and local streets, they gave some estimates, but they're going to give more truer estimates as state taxes start rolling in. So we're expecting that in the spring for them to give more estimates on the street funds.
Mr. Naptop.
Just to keep my head straight, how much of the ice storm 1,168,000 is currently booked in the general fund?
Oh, come on, I didn't
Just
study that today.
Roughly.
Oh, geez.
I mean, half of it, none of it, most of it?
20%. We got hit hard in the electric fund.
The reason why I asked that is that the quote surplus 25 estimate of 439 is eating any of the money that we ate for the ice storm in that number that we expect to get back 75% of. So it's 25 probably it is really better than we think it is. If you really look
Yes.
at it.
Yes, and also there's just a lot of guesstimating with the timing of the grants when we're expending them, because they just run through the city. They're not our costs, Maple Block and everything. So we just kind of guesstimate how much we expect to be expended fourth quarter, and we will receive those monies also. And that's what happened in 2024, when I estimated for the budget, thinking this much would come fourth quarter, you know, because we're sitting here in October trying to figure this out. So a lot is just in the timing of that,
But.
as far as the grants go. But to your question, we were hit hardest in the general fund in the solid waste line item there. So we had budgeted 279,000, this is within in the general fund.
Okay.
We had budgeted 280,000, and my estimate right now is 538,000.
Okay.
Some smaller amounts in parks, mostly in labor for cleanup. But that's the largest part of the general fund
So
would be.
it would seem to
in
me that
solid
I don't,
waste.
we shouldn't feel too bad about if we go over into 26 a little bit. Because it doesn't, I mean, I feel pretty good about 25.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, being a
Right?
positive,
On the same page with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, positive 439 at the end of this year for the estimates we have right now, and a negative, so it's
Thank you.
a positive 200.
Continue on. Manager Horn.
So just from a property tax revenue, just a few charts. You can see in the orange, the progression of our total taxes. This is all taxes, and then the blue is general fund. So on the general fund side, the blue, 2017, we brought in 3.8 million in revenue. Today, or in 26, we're projecting 4.8, so about $1 million more in revenue. Total overall in orange, almost 6.3 million in 2017 to 8.2 million in 2026. So you can see the progression there graphically. So just overall revenue wise, in the general fund, you can see our main source of revenue in the general fund, as you all know, our property taxes, for a $12 million revenue projection. 5 million of that, almost 44% of that, comes from property taxes. We do have a number of transfers that happen. This is a result of intergovernmental rents for City Hall from the enterprise funds. Enterprise funds pay essentially pilots. This is based on the value of the utilities net assets multiplied by the city property tax rate. So we do get transfers from the enterprise funds that support our general fund overall. You can see what that number is. Parks and Rec brings in some revenue as well. State shared revenue, you see where our grants are, just under $1 million. And then we have seen, one of the positive things is we've seen some better interest income over the last few years. We're projecting that to be just over $140,000 in revenue from interest income. On the expenditure side, it's always a little bit of a battle on who gets the award for using the general fund. So it's between public safety and
Public safety.
Parks and Rec. They have a little arm wrestling match every year. And Parks and Rec went out just by a little bit this year. So they're 1 and 2 typically right around 35% each. And then just general admin, finance department, and then general admin and public works bring up the rest of the expenditures in general fund. Our fund balance, this is a good slide to show as well. If you rewind back to 2012, 2013, we were 3.1 million in general fund balance. We'll be right around 7 million, just over 7 million at the end of 2025. So we're very healthy with our fund balance, which again is kudos to past city councils, past administrators, department heads who have efficiently managed their resources. We do have the unrestricted general fund balance. Again, for 2013 was 2.3. It's 4.7 projected for the end of 2025. And the restricted fund balance is for the marina and the refuse collection. The marina is about $2.1 million for 26. This is for bond debt obligations and overall maintenance. And then for refuse collection, we have a restricted fund balance of $261,000 for a total of 2.3 million, which is restricted. So the rest is available to be allocated based on city council. So looking at the getting back to, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but this is the MERS graphics over the course of several years where we've been from an unfunded accrued liability standpoint. So you can see the ebbs and flows of this as things have progressed. You know, from 2020, we were at 5.4 million. We're down to 3.9 million in the end of 24. So from, if you go back even further in 2015 before, which it was the reason why we made a lot of these pension changes, we were 73% funded. We're 90% now. So I think we've made some of the hard choices to get our benefit under control, if you will. So that's kind of where things are at currently. And then again, we're projecting another above and beyond $400,000 additional payment is proposed for 2026.
Questions?
Taxable value, can see how that's been progressing as well. As we all know, in 2009, 2010-ish time period, we had a significant decline in taxable value. It's taken us a bit of time to recover, but we have recovered from that and really recovered in a pretty significant way. We're still trending in the right direction. Again, forecasting a 5.1% increase in 2026. And you can kind of see where that puts us with where we've been. So just hitting some highlights again, we've seen some of this stuff already. This is kind of highlighting our general fund capital projects that were proposed to that there are in the budget currently. So in buildings and grounds, we have some improvements at Public Safety East, which is the station next door. Some facility improvements, and then we have some mandated safety improvements for our elevator that we really have no other choice but to do. So that comes in at about 125,000. We just did get some quotes on that, and it's going to be right in that ballpark, it appears. So we'll be fairly close to that number. Parks and Special Facilities. We talked about in our CIP discussion, the Riverbend Park, the skateboard park equipment. We did talk about a phased approach. It appeared like council wanted to just try to do it all at one time. So that full amount is in the budget currently to replace all of our skateboard park equipment. I mentioned the Marina dredging project. This would be, again, the switch for the Marina B project. Bypass engineering is there. The resurfacing, this is an annual number that we put in the budget to resurface a small stretch of the wheelway. It's one of those things where you just got to keep going, keep doing it. And once we're done, we kind of start over again and keep going. There is money as well for the dog park. We did start that project in 25. It's obviously on hold now until the spring, but we did do some grading work. We did some seeding work, some irrigation work. So we'll pick that up in the spring with fencing. So we're anticipating that project to be ready for the public around June of next year. And then the Bayfront East Arboretum Phase 2 project is scheduled. This is a TIFA project for next year as well, at the tune of $250,000.
Miss Moore.
So this isn't a question, but it was interesting reading the budget. And you others may have seen this as well, but I mention it in connection with considering the Little Traverse Wheelway project. Magnus Park has an annual gross income of just shy of $500,000, with a net after expenses of about $281,000. That covers all their operating and maintenance costs and generates additional funds to support other park operations. So given that that's being considered as a staging area, I think that's just an important consideration for everybody to have on their radar. Thank you.
I take it what you're saying is, and you're reiterating that the park would be shut down if the project were to be going through Magnus Park.
Right, and it's sort of a cost that I guess isn't fully reflected in the number that we were provided for the project.
Streets and drainage, so Howard Street, we're kind of finishing that up. This would be from East Mitchell to Michigan Street. We have miscellaneous street preservation funds in there. Typically, we kind of wait to see how the winter went as far as our roads go, and then make some determination of where we need to allocate resources accordingly. We will have to go back and finish Howard Street, that last stretch of Howard Street. So we'll be bidding that stretch out over the winter and getting that accomplished as well.
That will not be coming out of this budget, however, will it? The Howard Street completion?
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
There was funds enough to do it in the 2025 budget.
Yep.
Is that surplus of not being spent because it was not completed, that will be going into the this budget?
No, so
Yes, it's included in the 2026 budget, so it reflects in there. So next year, as the funds are being expended,
Okay.
it'll line up. But since it didn't, we've got a surplus of more than we thought we would
Right.
in those streets funds due to that not being completed. And
Okay.
that'll just roll over to 2026.
Okay,
We will have the park guarding lot. This is for the street side. It's for storm work as related to that upgrades to the park garden lot downtown. So again, downtown parking fund, that will be the park garden lot upgrades to that site, and then as well as some bike infrastructure costs. So that's the capital for downtown parking. Electric fund, one of the things you're going to see here in the next probably several budgets is an emphasis on advanced metering infrastructure. So this is the electric and water. So a lot of our metering infrastructure is fairly antiquated and has exceeded their useful life. So this would be a kind of a phased approach, looking at how do we upgrade that infrastructure to kind of modern day technology. Many communities have gone through this already. We're a little bit behind in this effort. So this would be again, a concerted effort on both the electric fund and the water fund to upgrade meters with advanced metering infrastructure, which is called AMI. So there'll be radio reads essentially that will be added and replacing more of traditional technology that's currently in place.
Ms. Demore.
Can you remind me what percentage we're at for undergrounding lines in the city, roughly?
I think we're
77?
78% or so.
Gonna say 77?
Okay.
pretty cool.
is it split? I thought, at one time I heard there was a split between residential and more, is there a number, are we better off in residential than we are with the rest of the town?
Yeah, I don't know how that breaks
Okay.
out. There is projects in here that, as a result of, I think Councilmember Demore asked the question, what did we learn from the ice storm? One of them was we need to really take care of our critical overhead lines, and we have a few of these that are in this budget along the river valley. If you've walked along the Bear River Valley, you'll see some pretty significant electrical lines that traverse through there. That potentially could be a significant point of failure, so we want to, we've had conduit in the ground ready to do it. The big cost with that is the cable. That's where the cost of the project is. So that would be undergrounding those stretches through the river valley and getting that accomplished. And then we have a number of residential conversions in the Morgan, Preby, Hillcrest, Curtis area to continue our undergrounding there as well. Water sewer, this kind of correlates with our street work on Howard Street, as well as, again, advanced metering infrastructure. So same thing on the water side. We have to put some effort into upgrading that technology as well. We have a significant amount going to upgrades to our lime kiln well, as well, doing some control improvements. So we're anxious to get that project going. We obviously want to make sure we're taking care of our critical infrastructure as well. And then just the ongoing lead and copper rule inventory work that's ongoing, getting that inventory done we have a number of what is it, a $600,000 grant that we're going through this process of making sure that we can identify where potentially our lead services are and get those identified and inventoried. And then the challenge becomes, how do we pay to make these investments in removing. So that's the ongoing challenge.
Mr. Moore.
So when does that challenge, when do we embark upon that? And I'm assuming we have no updates and funding.
No funding updates yet, but we have to kind of complete this process, which will be completed in 26. I don't know for sure how long they're going to give us to start scratch these off of our list, but the hope is that they're starting with more distressed communities with funding. But the hope is that we'll eventually see some of those funds come up here, but I know there's a lot of communities that are asking for the same thing. So we'll see how that funnels forward.
It's mandated, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
It's an unfunded,
Funded
it's an
mandate.
unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which we know all about those. Motor pool, the big thing in the motor pool, which, I'm really excited about as a former utility guy, we've never had one of these. We've always used a contractor and this is just a jet vehicle, a hydraulic jetter, will help us to clean our sewers on a regular schedule instead of being maybe more reactive to issues, proactively cleaning sections of our sewer and having a piece of equipment that'll allow us to do that. And then that's on the sewer side. On the water side, it will certainly assist us with water main breaks, keeping up with the flow of water that's escaping the main, if you will, assisting our crews to make the repairs safely. So I'm looking forward to this vehicle. I think it's going to be a nice add to our motor pool. I know it's going to be something that'll be well utilized. We did rent a piece of equipment very similar to what we're proposing to get, and our crews were just over the moon about it. They loved it. They were fighting over who got to run it for the day. So Jason had a lot of nice things to say about it. So I know they're looking forward to it. We also transitioned the modular vehicle barrier system forward as was directed by City Council. So we placed that into 26 budget as well to start that process of accumulating these barriers so we can safely close off streets appropriately. And then we do have one patrol vehicle that's due for replacement.
How much does that barrier system how many, how many crossings does that cover, you know?
Oh, I don't remember that first initial one. I think total it was, I don't know, I'm Director Carr, wasn't the total, was it, how many? 20?
20 street crossings?
I thought it was 20 barriers. I'm not really sure.
How many for a crossing?
Need two.
So we'd have 10, possibly 10
Yeah.
street crossings, like almost the entire,
More than that, that's just the.
but almost the entire parade route, I take it.
Yes.
Is that right?
The goalposts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep adding on to it as we go forward. So I think this is a good start.
Fantastic.
Addressing our most, pressing intersections, obviously.
Can I just ask, what percentage of recommended need is this for these barriers? In other words, is this 10% of what we need? Is it 20%? That's my
Well, I
question.
went through all the roads with Jason, when we presented this, and
Mike.
I wanna say, cause you need your 8 feet coverage, and Jason had to go and figure out on each road how what the width was, because some might need more, some might need less, right, of the barriers. So I would say this would get us a third of the way there, maybe more. Because you're talking, for our parade route, we gotta go Mitchell, and then you have to also, as we come up Lake Street as well, so. And then there's the Indian Meads, the Wapasus, and other areas that, this will get us a great start, though.
Mhm.
Thank you for the estimate.
Carry on.
The other thing that, at this point, I guess it's somewhat of an unfunded mandate, but hopefully we can get some grant funds. But we do have to upgrade our voting equipment. They've kind of reached their useful life and we're at a point where we need to, essentially, we have 7 pieces of voting equipment, which is a tabulator for each ward and 2, voting assist terminals, that need to be replaced per state requirements. We're obviously hoping, like many communities, that there'll be some grant resources to assist us with this effort, but for now, we felt like we needed to put the full amount in, just in case. We don't get grants, but, so one of the things found out recently that our number doesn't include this, so this will be a little bit of a modification, for the next, discussion we have. We'll have to put this number in the budget, so that number that I just shared about our 252, we're a little bit worse off, because the 75,000 isn't in there, but it will be.
No, the 70, it's in there.
I thought you said it wasn't in there.
It's just not on that summary page. I just
I'm
missed the
sorry.
formula because we've never had a capital expense.
So on the overview sheet, it's not on there. Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Mr. Knobtrop.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else this would be useful for, but my baseline is our CapEx or CIP budget that we approved a couple months ago. Basically said what we were gonna do in 26. We added the barriers and we added some things. Is there, I don't really feel like being an auditor. Is there any way to take this list here that we got in the 26 budget, match it with what we approved and just say where the changes are? Like the electric in the marina has changed, or is everything in here that we put in, what we put in our budget?
Yeah, I've kind of done, I did that with a previous slide, the changes that, so that's in your packet.
So it's in a previous slide here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, I forgot which one it is, but,
That's removed and.
Oh, that was it.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Capital improvement plan
Yeah,
update.
so the thing okay.
Yeah.
So the thing you added was a dredging,
Yeah,
that
just,
you removed the other stuff and that's it.
yes.
Was
Okay.
wash.
That's good. Thank you.
And then obviously based on your input, we'll continue to adjust going forward, but.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you. So the task before us is to find out how we can get down another $252,000.
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
no.
What we started the capital budget with a planned use of fund balance. So we kind of knew it was going to be a little heavier year for general fund balance. So one of the things I've heard from council over the months was the consensus was that we have a fairly significant fund balance. Let's activate some of those funds with projects. So this could be a way that we activate some of those funds with projects that, folks will be able to see with doing more capital improvement projects. So obviously, we've got some other discussions we're gonna need to have with Winter Sports Park, and how that will be funded. This budget doesn't really get into that quite yet because that's an entirely different discussion, which we'll have at the next meeting. But that could be, obviously, part of that rationale would be keeping fund balance for some of that as well. So that was the plan, that we were gonna have a little heavier year from a capital standpoint on the general fund side. So using or activating some of that fund balance for that was part of the discussion.
Okay.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you. I have another question then. I mean, it's kind of a fun activity to figure out how to tighten the belt, but that's fine.
No, I don't like to present a budget that's not,
It was tightened.
that's zeroed out. That's always the goal. But I think we're in a position where the fund balance is fairly healthy that, as Councilmember Nachtrab mentioned, we're gonna end 25 on a positive note with $400,000 to the good. If you balance out potentially a little bit of a $200,000 use of fund balance, I mean, it ebbs and flows. I think that it'd be one thing, I guess, if there was a significant track record where we were diving into fund balance year after year after year, that would be a little bit of a red flag for sure. I don't think we've made a habit of doing this. I think Audrey has some data on that.
I was interested in this. I went back to 2004 and looked at, how many years that council has committed to use fund balance. And it was 14 out of the last 22 years. I thought that was really interesting, that 64% that we have used fund balance, because during the year, like interest income, you're surprised that, the interest rate stayed so high for a couple of years. Because I underestimated interest revenue the past 2 years, just I'm overly cautious sometimes. But yeah, so you end up at a more positive end of year than you expect. So I can see why they have used it 14 out of 22 years.
Oh, it could be a wash of not even
Well, that's per budget, that it was
Yes.
committed
Yes.
per budget. Mhm.
but it
And,
doesn't-
and some years it was a positive number of $300, I think, just trying to make it break even. In 2009.
So, yeah, okay. Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Shane, I just want to entertain an idea real quick. We would be having a very different budgetary conversation had we chosen to move forward with a millage potentially for an election year, or a millage for our parks and recreation. So if we were to entertain that idea again in 2026 for the 2027 budgetary year, like, what would that look like? At what time would we start to plan budgetarily for a millage?
I think we have to have that discussion in January, really, to determine, is this something that you all want us to continue to work on? Because my thought would be to put it on for August, if there's a desire with city council. That would be the time I would like to see it potentially go on next. So to do that, if you back up, we would need to have a pretty good plan in place, in the spring. That's a lot of presentations around the community, making sure that we're telling our story. But before we can even do that, we need to have consensus among city council to even ask the voters the question. So that would be the request, that we have the discussion early part of 26 to at least try to allow us to engage the residents of Petoskey with the question. And they're going to let us know one way or another if we've done our job or not, ultimately, in telling our story and making the case for it. And then we respond accordingly at that point, but that would be my desire.
Thank you.
The last slide I put forward is just kind of a fun little exercise that we had put together. Because I get a lot of times when people come in and pay their tax bill, they think all of it's coming to the city. And that would be great if that happened, if that was the case, but it's really not reality. So essentially just using $1, 30% of that dollar, so 33 cents of that dollar is the city of Petoskey. The rest of it is many other taxing jurisdictions that also benefit by those tax resources. And I just kind of played that out a little bit on what that looks like. I use my tax bill, so obviously I'm 100% homestead. So if there'd be a different story if I'm paying that 18 mils, that this would look significantly different. Obviously I'm not paying that. So the schools would show a little bit, a lot different, from that standpoint if I was paying that operating, for that. So I just think it's a neat exercise to go through. Obviously the county, I combined the county's, portion. This would be the medical care facility at 0.2386 mils, the senior citizen millage at 0.4845 mils, the ambulance and EMS millage, and then the operating millage for the county as well. That's what the county's portion is. So that works out to about 18 cents of that dollar goes to the county. So I just think it's an interesting exercise that, when somebody pays their tax bill, it's not, we're facilitating that, we're dividing that and sending that back out to all these taxing jurisdictions, and collecting that and then redistributing that back out, accordingly. So I know that's a somewhat of a heavier lift for the finance department at that time of year, but this is a neat, way to, I think, show that, that it's not all your tax, bill, it does not come to the city of Petoskey.
I had the opportunity of sitting in, somebody called me with 2 commercial properties complaining about the taxes for the city. I asked them to call Shane. They requested that I sit in with Shane to hear their story. And it was amazing because they felt that all this tax dollars on this yellow piece of tax thing was going to the city, and why are you charging so much? It wasn't until we said, well, start looking down the sheet, and before long he said, I should go talk to the schools. And we said, go for it. But I think this is really a great piece that you guys put together. Of all of your budget stuff, this is one that really speaks to the citizens of Petoskey, where your money goes. Shane, I want to say thank you for what you guys have done. Audrey, Sarah, you guys have put together a heck of a budget. We may have some questions now, I think, on some of it, but I think this really flows well, nicely. It's gotten much better. Mr. Moore.
I just want to make sure that one message doesn't get lost in all of this, and that is that it's projected that tax millage rates for our taxpayers will remain the same in 2026 as they were in 2025.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The millage rates.
The millage rates are likely to be rolled back, dependent upon additions.
Yeah, but that's out of our control. We're not adding any millages to this budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just
I was like, wait a second.
Just from the taxpayer's point of view.
Mhm.
Question.
Yes.
Miss Walker.
And then can you repeat again? So this dollar bill graphic that you showed would be for a typical taxpayer that lives here year round, not for like a second.
Right.
You know what it looks like for a second, a third homeowner?
I
And do you
didn't.
know what percentage of people are actually those as opposed to like the year around?
I can get that information to
sorry.
you, but the equalization department in the county gives us that detail, but I don't have that in front of me right now.
50-50, isn't it?
I think it's not even that. I think
No,
it's
I think it's
60.
I think it's more
40.
60-40, and it's on their annual equalization report that
Yep.
they.
So 60 being like people that live here year round.
come out with.
heavier on
In
us
April.
versus them. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. Manager Horn, thanks for the report. I have I want to first say, appreciate you recognizing that there are items that this budget doesn't address and that we are not funding. And on one hand, and yes, we can't all get what we want. And there are lots of desires and needs out there. And just to say it out publicly, there's some things that I've, in the past 5 years, I've been wanting to see that aren't in this budget. And not all of these I'm going to advocate for right now, but I think it's important to recognize there's still 800 acres that we do not have a forest management plan for that the city owns. And we're dropping the ball on our stewardship of that forest and that resources out there. The deer management, deer issue, we still don't have a funding for any sort of control of deer. The unhoused, the discussion we had, great discussions, great motivation or momentum for addressing that, but currently we're not allocating money towards that. The accessory dwelling units and housing issue there. I've mentioned in the past about a potential revolving loan fund and seeding that. You mentioned the economic development professional, human resource professional. That's a new one that I think is important. And then I want to bring up also the lack of a full-time city planner as something else that we are not funding in this budget. With that, Manager Horn, I wanted to ask, thinking about a planner and the value of a full-time planner to our community. Currently, our contract planner, Mr. Eichel Angeli, do you know approximately how many hours a week does he bill the city of Petoskey? So that could be roughly like how often is he working for the city of Petoskey?
I don't know, do we have an average?
I do not have an average. He bills out monthly, but I would have to look at the invoices to get an hourly average.
So it's variable. Some weeks could be a couple hours or generally it's 20 hours a week. It's how variable is
I
it?
really haven't looked at the dates if it's by week because he bills by month.
Okay.
Does he bill on per hour or does he bill by project?
Per hour.
Okay.
What are we anticipating from a budget standpoint for those services? Isn't it 60-ish?
It's total 60 in contracted services, I think, for planning zoning department for next year. Because there's not much more than him in there, news review, and a
Yeah.
couple other small
What about
things.
Lisa?
Hmm? She's an employee. He's
You're-
under contracted services. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the past, I've allotted the last 2 years, I've an allotted amount, kind of maybe assuming hiring a city planner, so I put a little less in wages or a little more. But I did not this year just because it was a tighter year. I didn't have anything to buffer. So, but, always as council, we can change the budget at any time if you would see a need to increase that throughout the year.
I mean, I would say I value having staff in the building as well. John's been a great resource, a lot of experience, obviously. We are saving money using this method. I would say if you want to go out and have me hire somebody with salary and benefits, you're probably looking at 120-ish. So
120 is it?
I'm thinking salary with healthcare. I don't know, am I low over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's shaking their head.
Well, considering
And
what we
accounting,
pay- what
Mike.
we spend for other department heads, I think
Holy cow.
That's low.
What am I doing?
I think we should,
Healthcare is $22,000.
Right.
I think we should probably be looking at 150 or 60,000.
Agreed.
If we want to get somebody good, I mean, I don't want to lowball it and get somebody that just got out of school and is looking for their first job, and I think we deserve somebody with experience, somebody with a history.
Yeah, I guess, is there a determination of, I get the feeling that you're thinking we need more time in the, this is more time than John spends. And is there a feeling amongst all of us that there's more time needed if we had a person available? Or is it a money issue? Because it seems to me city planning is pretty daggone important.
Mhm.
And if we have a part-time person and we really need a full-time person, then we ought to be talking about that. Or is
What
it a
would-
money issue?
What would a full-time person give us that a part-time person
That's
doesn't?
precisely what I was trying to ask.
What is we know what we get. What is the extra amount of money gonna bring to us? Can you?
I mean, it's customer service, right? I mean, we'd have somebody in the office when we have a walk-in or whatever, we'd have a staff member available.
With the services of expertise of bringing forth more to the table when it comes to discussions at the planning commission or through city council, would there be an increase in that?
It just depends on who we bring forward, because you just don't know. You know, Audrey mentioned the last couple of years, we've had funds kind of set aside for this transition, and we haven't done that. This year, we just decided to pull it back out. We obviously need to get through the zoning work. That's critical. We're almost to that point, but we're not quite there. I guess I would be concerned with who we'd be able to, the pool was fairly shallow last time we went out. But we can certainly try it again if that's the desire of city council.
There's another thing is, I guess I look at it as the current planner has walked through with planning commission to look at all of the rezoning now, which is gonna be coming to city council late January, probably February. Do we want to start looking at changing ship now? I would like to, I think it would behoove us to stay the course until we get through that piece of it, just because of the consistency of transfer of information and stuff. Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. I agree with that. I think that ship is sailing in that direction. To jump ship on that right now would not be beneficial. But I do, to Mr. Nogtraub, I think planning is very important, and there are a lot of more than just customer service, and I respectfully think that something like the sub-area plan and something that's planning for ideas that, Mr. David Troutman, some of the ideas he thinks about how we plan our streetscape and just how plan our city, those are ideas, but general developing ideas for our planning of our community is lacking because we don't have a full-time developer. And I would include saying that, taking 2 years to do the rezoning, if we had a full-time person, we could be doing that in a more efficient way, effective way. I understand there's not a full agreement. I speak for myself on that one. So I think personally that we are missing some opportunities by not having a full-time planner. I would say, yeah, don't do it now, but potentially after this.
Process is coming. And I look at it this way, it's like when we did the call for presenters or opportunities for the city attorney. We included the company, the firm that we were utilizing at the time. I think being broadcast out to anybody and everybody, including who is serving us now. But I think it's, at some point, I think it's good for the city to occasionally go out and look at what else is out there. And if we find that there's nothing and we stay with who we have. Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think in addition to that, Joe, I tend to agree with what Derek is saying. I feel like the chill grant and like the housing readiness grant would have been completed and done in-house by now, had we possibly had one person in that position. I also think that, you know, there, what were one of them? Yeah, between those two pieces, there was another thought I had, I'm sorry, it just totally escaped me, but I really do believe that, oh, I know what it was. We've had a difficult time tracing billable hours from this firm and like what was allotted from the firm during the month at certain times, whether it was a Parks and Rec project under Tim, under the engineer, or if it was housing, or I'm sorry, planning and zoning related under John, underneath the same firm. So that on a month-to-month budgetary item, it's kind of like I'm always kind of like guesstimating or trying to figure out, having to circle back around and ask like, which one was for this Parks and Rec project under Tim versus under John and housing and zoning. So I think that would be another reason for the 2027 budget. I agree, staying the course right now doesn't make any sense to, and plus we don't have it budgeted for that reason, but
But the
think we should-
budgeting piece is immaterial when it comes to the operations of the city. We can find the money, we can find movement of funds to make something happen if we found that we wanted to or needed to.
okay.
But getting back to, City Manager Horn, I have a question. Do you feel, I kind of disagree with this piece that you stated. I believe the chill grant and those other grants would have been, am I correct? Would they have moved any faster?
I really don't think so. This has been, I mean, I would have liked to have potentially, you know, more support with staff potentially that we could assist with this, but this was a very difficult undertaking. I'll just be flat honest with you. There was a lot of requirements that I had no idea that we even had to go through this administrative process. So, if this process comes before me again, I'm gonna have to have a hard look in the mirror to determine, is this worth it? I mean, the issue is, to me, there's need out there. And to me, that's what facilitates moving in that direction. So it's very unfortunate that we have to have all this red tape. People really need these resources, and we're out here doing all these extra, in my opinion, nonsense stuff to check boxes when there's people out here that need a new roof, need new windows, and want to get this done before winter. And so that's been very frustrating. But I know if we don't follow every letter of the law, we're responsible as the city. So if something happened and we distributed $40,000 to a property owner and it come to find out they didn't qualify from an income standpoint, it's the city. So I take that very seriously. So it's a very slow, methodic process, but I just lost where I was gonna go, but
I think we should really think, you know, I know they basically, those grants are, you would basically, if you hire out, you're paying 18 to 20% for somebody to run those grants.
Administration.
We did the administration in-house. Maybe next time we don't get caught with that. The trouble is, you're 1/5 of every dollar, one of every $5, you're turning over to somebody to run the show. And that money, Shane wanted that money to go to people.
yeah, I do appreciate Habitat stepping forward. They've been a great assist for me with administrating this grant. So it's taken us a while to kind of get through a lot of the admin mumbo jumbo, if you will. So we're through a lot of that. So you're going to see some good progress going forward. So I'm excited about that. So
Thanks for taking it on, and
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah,
for
thank you.
bringing it forward to us to begin with. That $500,000 is a lot of money. Counselor, do you have other questions on this budget, or do you wish to bring them forward at the next meeting when we start talking nuts and bolts and dollars and cents more?
I intend to try to set up a meeting one-on-one because I have some of it is education, but some of it is just flatly ideas and suggestions.
I think it's great, but I think at some point, I think it's good for the group to hear some of it, because I want to know, geez, did I miss something? And you bring something up and I go,
Mhm.
boy, that was a great idea. We'll support, I want to support that
I got
change. or
notes
that
all the way
adoption.
through it.
But, so I guess meet with Shane, Audrey, and I don't know if you can somehow, as we go,
Maybe I can summarize some of the
Mhm.
requests that may be coming, so you all can kind of have that ahead of the next meeting.
I think that would be good.
And we can have two of you at once without violating OMA. So if it assists, then it certainly would help us as staff to try to double up if we can. I know I've heard from a few of you on times already, so I'll reach back out to you and set those up. So, yeah, this is a lot of information. I certainly appreciate, the amount of questions that have come forward already. I know as you dive in a little deeper, you'll probably have many more questions, which is what it should be. So I appreciate your guidance on that.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Manager Horn. I do have some high-level items that I am not interested in seeing in the capital or into the budget, or at least discussing as you go and do your more homework. One of those is, I mentioned in the capital improvement plan, not wanting to support the slope restoration, now it's $50,000. And also, I'm gonna add in there, I am interested and willing to strike out this year doing the resurfacing of the WOA and saying, hey, what if, we don't do that for a year? What does it look like? We have some more cracks that we have to go through. But can we use that? Then that'd be $200,000 that we can go to either the key fob thing or the sub area plan or a planner, or what I want to propose, and I mentioned this briefly the last meeting, is this idea of a fund development officer or a director of philanthropy that would raise money raise private money for projects that are community projects that this body has said, yes, these are things that the community wants. And then they go and supplement public dollars with private philanthropy. So things like raising money for the wheelway repair and maintenance, housing the unhoused, the less than 80% AMI type of projects that are not going to happen without significant subsidies and significant philanthropy. As well as the parks enhancements, potentially that millage doesn't have to come because there can be some philanthropy. I know this is something that generally larger municipalities have. They have community development officers, directors of philanthropies. So as a smaller community, I can understand, say, hey, well, that's a little bit of, that's a pretty radical thing to do. Why would we do that? But I think looking at our community, it actually makes sense. There's a lot of people who want to see projects go through, and there isn't that mechanism for doing that easily. A grant or fund development officer can cultivate individual donors. It can also help with grant administration, and I know our department heads do a great job of bringing in grants. But one person to help coordinate some of that, it could also help us become more efficient. So, that could be something where we fund by making some more room in the budget.
Anyone else wish to speak? So you'll set a time up, you can meet with Shane, either double up.
I'd be game for doubling up.
I don't know, you guys, I don't know how.
Yeah,
you
we
wanna
could
do this. He'll send something out to you. How's that?
Yeah.
How's that?
I know Councilmember Demore throughout Thursday and Friday this week, so if I'm pretty good those 2 days, so if one of those.
Is Wednesday or tomorrow possible?
Mm-hmm.
Like Wednesday sometime in the morning, or?
I like your attitude of wanting to get it going.
What time of day?
Like literally any time in the morning, or like 10:30, 10 o'clock.
We have another person coming on city council, Mr. Wilmot. I know there's discussion of him.
Shane and I have already talked about it.
Yeah.
You've already talked.
We'll compare calendars at the end.
Yep.
Okay. I thought there's another double up with somebody.
I'm free in the morning.
That works for me.
Beautiful.
Wednesday at 10.
And, okay.
Anybody joining you? Wednesday at 10?
I can't join Wednesday at 10, but I'm open Thursday and Friday if somebody wants to join with me at a time that works for them.
I can do it.
So Charlie and I could do it together on Friday.
Yep, Friday's good for me.
I'm here.
Actually, it's not a city council, so if another one of you wanted to go in at that time, it is.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that.
No? Okay. But it's. Oh, because you have not been sworn in yet, so you are technically not on.
Friday at time, did we say?
I,
You have a time preference? Friday?
Either late morning.
either one of those is fine for me.
I'm,
Want to do it right after lunch?
1 o'clock?
At
So I'll see
morning
if I
for
can make
dinner.
Wednesday at 10 a.m. work then. I'll get it on your.
One, right? One on Thursday, on Friday, excuse
1
me.
o'clock Friday.
Got it.
I'm giving up work. I'll do it gratefully.
And it doesn't, we don't have to double up Lindsay if it works over lunch period or whatever.
There's no such thing as lunch. What do you-
I was gonna say, I could do lunch Wednesday if you want.
No, don't adjust it for me. I'm gonna make Wednesday at 10 a.m. work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Where are we all?
Did you write it down?
We'll be in the Kilborn room downstairs.
The one with the view, get early and you have a view of the bay.
Except you have your back to the door.
Never have your back to the door. Don't ever sit like that.
Okay. Moving along, adoption of the proposed resolution. Inter,
Public hearing,
Yeah, we need to,
we need a motion for the resolution. Schedule
Oh.
public hearing for budget.
we need to schedule a public hearing for December 1st. Do I have a motion for that?
Mayor, I'd be happy to propose, make a motion to schedule our budget hearing for December the 1st.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Any other discussion? We go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Shields,
Aye.
Knocktrab,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Adoption of a proposed resolution approving interlocal agreement with Little Traverse Bay of Ottawa Indians for cross deputation and mutual law enforcement assistance. Public Safety Director Carr, welcome.
Good evening. First off, circling back to the barriers. I was able to go back through my emails while I was sitting back here, listening to everything, obviously. But it looks like it'll close 7 streets right now and we need 19 total. So my rough estimate was pretty close. So,
Thank you.
yep, you're welcome. The interlocal agreement that we're discussing here, I had worked with the tribal chief, Terry McDonald, trying to find a way for us to break down some barriers of response times. And as we discussed, or you discussed a little bit earlier, the need for possibly another law enforcement officer. We're kind of at the bend but don't break with personnel, and this would help with response times because they're traveling throughout the city from time to time. Also, we pass their properties quite a bit as well. And if we have a medical emergency or any type of emergency at these properties, then we can respond without asking for jurisdiction, which is just another step that delays our response to assist one another. So that's basically what this is. We have the same type of agreement with the county as well, where it just saves a step. We can ask for jurisdiction and they can, an officer has to respond and say, yes, you can make a traffic stop or some things like that outside our jurisdiction. We've made agreements such as this, where we're cross-deputized with the county as well. Now this would allow us to do that with the tribe as well. So we've had instances where we've had to respond to assist, and we have to wait for them to allow us to because of sovereign land. And this just kind of is, it's a good thing for both parties.
Can I ask how many pieces of property roughly they have, the tribe?
Within the city limits, I want to say it is closer to 8, maybe.
That's all, 8?
Yeah, they have some apartments, they have their local businesses, they have, I'm sorry, there's one on Emmett Street, there's one on Petoskey Street, Spring Street. There's they have property that used to have a house on it by Monroe, yes, thank you. So, yeah, roughly 6, 7, somewhere in there, so.
Do you have any questions or a possible motion? Mr. Knobtrop has a question.
Just from a background, would you say that the spirit of cooperation on this is high on both sides, and that we've had conflicts with them and anything that they do differently than we do, and that you can see there could be any kind of a problem with anything on this agreement?
I don't, and I've supplied them with all of our policies as well. So they're, as it's written in this agreement, they have to abide by all of our policies. And really, it's just hey, hold things down till we get there. And that's the agreement on both sides. We're not trying to make traffic stops on tribal land, or we're not trying to have, we're just trying to assist one another in these situations. Or if they see a vehicle that we're looking for, they can make a traffic stop and hold it down till we can get there and handle the situation.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
So I fully support this. I think it's great, these cooperative efforts, just like the previous fire
Mhm.
agreement that we entered into. But my question's really for Shane, and it's just relative to liability. Is it our intention to apprise the city's insurance carrier of this interlocal mutual agreement? And for that matter, the fire agreement that we've already entered into, or any other agreements like this, where there's a potential for liability and there's hold harmless clauses, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, we did reach out. Audrey reached out to our insurance provider. They mentioned as long as there's hold harmless language attached to the agreements, that they are comfortable in that area. Just make sure that we're covered with that language. This has been reviewed by our city attorney as well. There is one little typo that I need to bring to your attention on 16 under hold harmless on page 71 of your packet. Just a little bit of a word missing. So the third sentence or the third line there, after each, it should be other added to that. That for whatever reason was missed in the update. So that just needs to be amended with adding the word other at that location.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Walker?
Can you tell me, does other jurisdictions, so other municipalities, the only other one would be City of Harbor Springs and then the county, do they have similar agreements with LTBB? Do you know?
I do not know if they have with, I know, let me see. I know Mackinac City has an agreement
Yeah.
with the tribe for their property there, but I don't believe, I don't know if Harbor Springs does,
Thank you.
or Emmett County.
I have a motion possibility. Mr. Moore?
Happy to make the motion with the amendment on page 71, paragraph 16A, the addition line 3 of the word other. So it reads claims against each other.
Second the motion.
I have a motion for Mr. Moore, second from Mr. Shields. Any other discussion, council? Does the public wish to speak on this? There being none, so I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Knocktron,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Last on the agenda, review and discuss on domestic fowl namely chickens and ducks.
Well,
City Manager Horn?
Kind of defer to Councilmember Shields, to start the discussion, I guess.
Sure. Thanks, Manager Horn. I was contacted by a city resident asking if keeping chickens is allowed, and I did not know the answer, and talked to Manager Horn. It is not permitted, so I've thought about I would propose bringing a ordinance to this body suggesting that we make it so residents can keep hens and ducks with best management practices, guidances, that I pulled for some examples that I pulled from Michigan State Extension University and other communities in the area, including Traverse City, who permit this type of fowl, this type of these pets. And I, you know, I don't have strong feelings for it, other than I do not see it. I think a lot of the potential concerns can be mitigated through the ordinance. And, you know, I had one resident compare the potential noise to dogs, and we all know that there are dogs that bark in our neighborhoods. And we deal with that as a community. So given that people who want to have hens and ducks as well, the opportunity to do so in a limited capacity, I'm supportive of that, but just bringing it before the body.
Anybody wish, Mr. Knobtop?
I have actually had a couple of people ask the same question since I've been here my short period. But in reading all the background, and when I went into this before, when I read the background, I'm trying to understand why this council, at the end of the day, when they had the ordinance, then the petition to have it be brought up to the vote, and then the council just decided to cancel it. Is there any history on why council decided to not let it come up to the vote?
To start with, there was 10% of the population signed a petition to bring it to city council, which then made city council make two choices. You either put it on the agenda or you support it. So you know, there must have been a reason. There wasn't a lot of write-up on why they refused it. However, I look at it this way: we pass it and then we end up getting 330 people signing a petition, and it's going to be right back in our laps. So I guess if you want to do chickens, I'm in favor of putting it on a ballot and let the people decide, because I don't think we're not going to win either way on this. For some reason, there were 331 people signed the petition in 2011, and you know, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying that's the facts of how we got here in the past in 2011 from the research that I've done.
So I guess from my own personal objective, I don't, you know, I've had a couple people ask about it. I don't see a big reason not to. And if there's an objection to it, as you say, Mr. Mayor, then if it's a big controversy, you'd like let the voters vote if that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't see why we wouldn't allow it.
Well,
With all the conditions that we had in the other ordinance and what Derek is saying, not just wild, but I'm just with conditions.
I don't know. I thought one thing that was missing there, I think, and I'm not sure if I know in some of these there are not, depending on what climate, location, environment you're at, but the need for liquid water is a requirement. I don't think it was in some of these. It was not in there. There's some things that would need to be addressed that are not in this ordinance. I also, you know, I did some research on it, and it stated that from the University of Minnesota Extension, stated that chickens do occasionally start cawking like a rooster, because as they get older, they do have a changeover to acting like a male. I did read that. I'm just throwing some stuff out there of what I read. You can check the history on the, you know, Minnesota Extension Office on their reports on this, but, I think we should be, you know,
I'm in favor of chickens.
Mayor, I think that, since 2011, now have a master plan called Livable Petoskey. And I would argue that allowing chickens and ducks is aligns with our sustainability goals and this idea of self-reliance and livability and celebrating that we are a year-round community and that, with guidelines and boundaries, I also think that there's a noise ordinance that can be included in there. So if a hen starts, acting like a rooster, well, then there's a way to respond to that.
but the noise ordinance is not going to address chicken noise. I think the ordinance for noise is totally different than the noise that would come out of an animal. I'm pretty sure that from looking at the noise ordinance,
I know, you're right, Mayor. That's why I suggested in the noise ordinance adding, there's a comment about animal barking, howling, or makes other noises continuously for more than 10 minutes or intermittently for more than 30 minutes within a 1 hour period. Again, the noise is audible beyond the property line. So
I see also the word was nuisance, and I could not find on the ordinance, some definitions of words such as nuisance. What is a nuisance? And I thought that definitions needed to be included in this as well. What is a nuisance? What is a nuisance that a chicken would cause? I don't know, but I want to know what is it that people feel are nuisances involving chickens. I know odor is.
Getting loose and having to corral them in the street. We have that happen occasionally.
We have had it here
Yes,
with chickens that people do have chickens.
have had chickens, yes.
I asked Public Safety Director, have you had to address that at all, sir?
Yes.
Okay, well,
And it's normally noise or odor that we have, and sometimes they do get loose.
noise or odor. Okay,
it's-
as do dogs, cats.
well, then if you're throwing dogs, cats and chickens into that, we should allow just about any kind of animals into this group of what people can have then. I mean,
No, it's not the slippery slope kind of argument. You could say though, no, we've set the boundaries, there aren't goats. So I think we can make that call as this body, say, no, chickens and ducks are okay, but goats are not.
why not? Why not?
Because this body said so. That's it.
Well, no, but I
Yeah,
mean,
because that-
if you want to throw it all out there and say
Because-
chickens are
because-
good, why aren't goats good?
We're trying to represent the needs and desires of our community. So if we do hear a lot of requests for goats, let's discuss that. I think, I haven't done research, probably other implications of goats needing larger areas than for hens or ducks. But this is responding to desires of the community, desires of Northern Michigan living. And, I would also say, it's unclear, and so people are clearly I had ducks 2 years ago. I had no idea. I don't have ducks currently. So like people are having those, so let's try to make it more clear. I would recommend make it more clear and let's allow it.
Miss Demore.
So just to follow up on needs and wants of the community, because I think that's really important. For my part, I haven't received any constituent interest or input on backyard chickens and ducks generally, or on this initiative specifically. Now, I am aware of the email we received today, and apparently one other constituent, and perhaps this gentleman in the audience as well. But overall, I'm just not aware of any community groundswell on this topic. And as the city history that's included in the packet material demonstrates, this is a controversial issue. Some people think it's a great idea. Some people don't think it's a good idea at all. So applying a risk-benefit analysis respectfully, I don't support this body moving this matter forward. I would agree that if you want to put it on a ballot and let the community vote, I think that would be a viable approach. We'd have a better sense of this as opposed to it being anecdotal. I'm not getting any, comments. You apparently have had one or two, and so 3 or 4 then altogether. So that's my perspective on it. I mean it most respectfully. But I just, at this juncture, don't support this body moving it forward. And as an adjunct to, as an old debate coach, I can't help myself. So I go and research things, and there's a lot missing here. Like many communities that have adopted this also adopt what's called the generally accepted agricultural and management practices. And those are extremely detailed. They include things like prohibiting the outdoor slaughtering of animals, the generally accepted agricultural practices for coop setbacks of 50 feet, and it goes on and on. So, thank you. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, and I respectfully disagree, and I would love for this body to actually vote on whether we want to move forward on this body discussing it, or if there's a different option, put it on the ballot. I think just because there isn't a lot of people knocking your door asking it, doesn't mean it's not something the committee wants. By putting it on the agenda next week, saying, hey, the council's gonna vote on it, you'll get more people speaking up on both sides. And we should not, as a body, not do something because it's contentious. We should embrace that and have that open dialogue as a community. And I would say, hey, this body should vote on it. And I'm requesting that we actually say that versus just letting it, a couple of strong opinions here. What does this body want to do?
Well, there's options. Like I say, the last time that city council addressed it was because of 331 signatures that said no. I would like to see 331 signatures come forward that say yes. And then I can feel good about putting it on the ballot without, because of the cost of elections and the cost of all the process. I feel that would be fair. Otherwise, if you want to move this forward, I guess 2 motions on what do you want? You could make a motion. If you'll get a second, you can have a discussion on it or an action, but otherwise this will die a quiet death.
Exactly. So that's why I'm pushing it right now. Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Walker, can I hear if you have any thoughts or opinions on this?
Oh, I totally support you if you wanted to talk about it. If you wanted us to decide. I believe in homesteading, and I think that,
I'm not at all prepared to say yes to your thing. But I am very interested in at least pursuing it with all the health and safety constraints around it and set the rules up. I like the sustainability of it, although I'm not a big fan of all the sustainability things we do. But it seems like this makes some sense if we can keep it under control. I would not want it to be like Key West, although Key West, the chickens and roosters going around is pretty nice. They seem to do it well, but that isn't what we need. So I would love to at least pursue it enough. And I don't think we need 300 people to come in here to say yes. We probably didn't have 300 people initially when the city, somewhere along the way, this council said they wanted to do it. And they passed an ordinance on it. So,
Rob, is this allowed? If this went through, this would be allowed in the harbor?
well,
No, it would not.
it would not be,
See.
but I'm
well, I guess-
okay with that. But I represent, as you reminded me,
Yeah.
other than Bay Harbor.
yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You say that all the time to me. Anytime I talk about Bay Harbor, you say I represent others. Now it's the other way around. So I'm just saying, given my opinion, Mr. Mayor,
okay,
that it seems reasonable to
okay,
pursue this.
okay.
Good for you.
And I have an issue with when I go back to the noise, to the odor, and if we've got police contacted about this, then it's an issue. And I don't know if I want public safety having to be monitoring and taking care of that when they've got, I think, more important issues to take care of. than check it on chickens and roosters and ducks and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know.
Grass in front
I leave it up to city council. Speak if you wish to speak.
Mayor, so options, I can make a motion, I'm not doing that just yet, of asking us to put it on the agenda next week and vote on it. The option for having it be something that it comes on the ballot, maybe is a question for Manager Horn. Is that something like, what would that look like? What would be the process? I mean, I'm open to that as option as well. Would that be in August? I wouldn't want a special election just for this. So it's just too premature of a time to ask for that.
Maybe a consideration would be to have our city attorney put together an ordinance that's best practices. I'm sure they have clients that have gone through this process for council's consideration. Maybe you direct me to move in that direction with a draft ordinance that has been fully vetted by our city attorney and see. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some expenditure of funds to do that, but I'm not sure what we would be approving without having a draft ordinance that's gone through the legal review process. So that's an option.
I think, Derek, I thought you were going, what's the process if you do put it on the ballot? Is this something that this body could say, we don't want to vote on it, but we want to put it on a ballot? Is that an option? And if it is.
I'd have to look at the charter language again. Typically it's initiated by a resident, a citizen, it's
Public.
yeah, the public.
10% of the voting. Is
Yeah,
the
usually it's-
last presidential election. That's how you get it on there. Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to make a motion that asks Manager Horn to connect with legal counsel to draft a resolution or an ordinance for allowing backyard chickens and ducks with best practices and a full vetting from their perspective of what a responsible backyard chicken and duck ordinance could entail for this body to discuss at an upcoming meeting.
Mr. Moore.
Can I have a point of clarification or should I wait for a second?
No, go ahead, make one clarification.
Point of clarification, is the purpose of this ordinance for something this body would pass? Or I'm kind of confused now, or are you looking for something from the city attorney that would advise how this would be on a ballot, which are, to my understanding, two different things?
Thanks for the point of clarification. And I'll say, I'm asking for something, an ordinance that this body would pass.
Thank you.
I prefer to put it on a ballot and find out from city attorney how that could be put on a ballot. I believe this is controversial. We're gonna have as many people saying no, as many people saying yes. I say let the people decide because they're the ones that are living in the houses. They're the ones in the resident. I hear, there's a lot of this ordinance. Somebody said 50 feet.
That was.
You mentioned 50 feet. Other things say 20 feet,
I thought
5 feet.
724 was 25 feet or something.
25 feet. There's other things that I read were multiple sources, there were 40 feet, there were 50 feet from a primary residence. I think, if, for me to vote at all, I would want to know, we haven't even had that discussion on how far, what, where.
That's the ask.
I understand, but what is she going to come back with? Is it she's going to come back with what? How many feet they should be away from a primary residence? The side residence? How far are they from the back, from the sides? One of them said auxiliary had to be so many feet away from any building on a piece of property.
Mhm.
There were those.
Yeah.
There was also those that said, those that are actually residential, habitated houses. You know, there's all of these, every one of these things seem to have, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
across the board, a lot of different ones, and I guess I think it's probably, I'm sure the city attorney is gonna say it's legal, but it's, what is legal?
We don't know what the city attorney's gonna say.
Mr. Moore, you were saying something?
Well, here goes another point of clarification. My understanding is that the motion on the table, which has not yet been seconded, is to assign public dollars to our city attorney to develop an ordinance that would include all that the mayor and others have discussed. There would be things that are setbacks. Am I understanding your motion correctly?
Correct. That is correct. I'm the ask would be for legal counsel to provide us a document to then have this discussion on all the facets that should go into an ordinance regulating backyard chickens and ducks.
Have a discussion on all the things or have the attorney include that all in the document?
Well, included document is, that's the starting point, how any ordinance then comes to this body. And if you, Ms. Demore, says, no, that restriction is not, doesn't settle well with me, I think it needs to be 50 feet, well, then that's how that discussion happens. So
But you want an intact ordinance to be drafted that could be voted on by this body.
yes, please, yes.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
I have a motion from Mr. Shields, second from Ms. Walker. Council discussion. Mr. Knobtroff.
Yes, so again, part of this is my own ignorance. If we ask, if I'm understanding what the motion is, we're gonna ask our outside firm to prepare a draft ordinance and which would include all the best practices that Michigan, that she can find and that Michigan has? I mean, is that kind of where it's going? Because I got a little bit of an indication, what you said, Mr. Mayor, is there's a lot of variability of what best practices is.
Yes, there are.
And so, you know, I'm not an expert of this, although I have some family members that are very much into this and it's a great thing for them. But I don't know anything about it. So I somehow, how do we get educated as a council on this? As to what is good best practices?
Mayor, can I
Shields.
modify modify the motion to give more clarification that the motion would be asking our legal counsel to develop an ordinance to bring forward this board to vote on that would include all the regulations for backyard chickens based on other communities in northern Michigan's ordinances that permit it and best practices as provided to Michigan State Extension Agency. Period. That's the motion.
So how is she going to separate or sort out all of the other local cities? One has 40, one has 25, one has 20. How is she going to sort that out?
It's legal counsel's responsibility when you're doing research.
That that is.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, that's asking. I would also suggest they start with my draft here, but this is just like any ordinance that comes to us from the legal counsel. I appreciate all their intention to want to have the details. Many times you don't ask for these details, so I appreciate that. That's the motion. I've made the motion. I'll leave it there.
I'll second the revised motion with the further description that Derek proposed.
Okay, any other discussion? I go to public for any comment they wish to make. Anybody wish to speak?
I'm Larry Dyer, I'm a resident of Petoskey. I am strongly in favor of moving forward with a proposed amendment to allow backyard poultry. There is a extension bulletin, Michigan State University Extension put out a bulletin in 2010 that gives some pretty good guidelines, two-page little bulletin that gives pretty good guidelines on what would be reasonable for backyard poultry. It doesn't necessarily follow the GAMPS, which is designed more for commercial scale agriculture. So it has things that are more scaled for backyard poultry. I think the recommendation is, I think 20 feet, up to 20 feet from the nearest residence, that sort of thing. They recommend, 4 to 6 hens, which is a pretty reasonable number. No roosters because they can be a nuisance. And so there are guidelines that actually would make a fairly simple and straightforward ordinance. I think poultry is a good way for people to gain a little bit of self-reliance and a little bit of food security. I think it is something that a lot of people want. If we've got, 3 or 4 residents that have asked for it, there's probably dozens more that haven't. If there are problems that public safety has had to address, it may be because there are people that are already doing it that aren't following any established guidelines. And so some of the problems with noise and with odors, I think, could be addressed pretty readily by some fairly simple guidelines that people would have to follow. And then if they become a nuisance because they're not following those guidelines, then you have the recourse to shut them down. But I think it's a reasonable thing to pursue. I'm recalling the discussion in 2011 as well. I thought there was a lot of really poorly informed discussion. A lot of it was frankly silly references to Green Acres, and they're going to ruin our little pristine little resort town. And just, I think a little more reasonable discussion about what this would actually look like. We're not talking about hen houses with 150 chickens. We're talking about 4 hens, 4 to 6 hens. So I think I would strongly support moving forward with it. Draft a resolution, start with this MSU Extension Bulletin and give a call to Traverse City and see what their experience has been and put something on the table that can be discussed. Thank you.
Charlie Wilmot, resident of Petoskey. I have some serious concerns about backyard poultry. Not so much for what's been discussed here tonight, but for the chickens and the ducks and abuses that may occur. I also have concerns, as the mayor brought up, with regard to the responsibility that public safety would inherit. Unless you're planning on educating Tony as the code enforcer to go out and check and make sure that the ducks and the geese and the chickens are well taken care of, this will add a burden of responsibility to the city that the city can't walk away from. And we have to decide if this is an area that is important enough to the populace that the city council should just override the populace and decide for itself. And I don't think that's the right direction. Thank you.
I don't even know what are the consequences to violations. Can you write a ticket for those? A civil infraction?
Yes, but, well, basically, they're not allowed to have them right now, so most of them don't have them anymore. So that we're aware of, I don't think we have any enough in the city.
But orders, but what about with orders and?
Orders, right, well, we would.
It'd be built into the
You're not
ordinance.
supposed to have them, you're not supposed to have them, but we've had people say, well, we're gonna address the orders, and then ultimately have gotten rid of their chickens.
So in other words, if there is an ordinance that allows it, and there's a citizen complaint about the ducks and the chickens, it falls into basically the same category as if there's a complaint about a dog, right? And if there's a complaint about a dog, then public safety,
To us.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
then public safety gets called. The officer has to go out and write a report, and then it gets shuttled over to the county, who does nothing. So it needs to be thought through.
We also have a problem with they'd have to be registered and the places have to be inspected. So are we going to burden city council? our city staff here with registering them and then they have to be yearly inspected?
I don't think so, Mayor. I would.
That's the ordinance.
No,
that
no,
we're
it's,
talking
no, it's
about. Your
not.
ordinance isn't, but the other ones state it.
Yeah, well, I would, that's an option. It says optional in that document, actually.
Well, the two or three that I looked at, including Minnesota, which I figure is in a cold area as us, you know, they do. They do inspect, you have to register and have to have it inspected. And I believe, you know, that should be a part of it. If that's what we're gonna do, you need to register. Maybe if there's a fee for a permit, because we're gonna have to pay for the inspection. We charge for inspections on short-term rentals. You have to pay every year for a short-term rental inspection of your place for it. I think we're gonna have to set up a inspection, a registration and a fee to pay for
That's up to this body to decide, and I don't think that's necessary. That's over-regulation of something that we should just be allowing our members to do with the regulations that are already there in place. And just like dogs, you know, yeah, not everybody is treating their pets ethically. This is an extension of pets that we currently don't allow people to have, and we're opening that up.
Mr. Moore.
I was just going to reiterate that for my part, I have not seen a community groundswell for this. I think this is a matter for a community initiative. If this is something the community really wants, they can come forward. It can be on a ballot and the community can decide. I don't think at this juncture with half dozen, four, that this is an initiative that the council should move forward and expend funds for our city attorney, because it's going to take some time to dig into this material and really draft something that's covers all the bases. So for that matter, I just think it's better a community initiative. And that's it. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Mr. Knobtrop.
I tend to understand what you're saying in that it is clearly controversial, and I'm feeling like it's even controversial here, and I don't feel good about that. Having said that, I'm still okay with looking into it. And I would love to understand, can we as a council put something on the ballot and let the people vote, or does it have to come through a petition? That seemed to be a little confusion here when we were asking about it before. Is it possible to actually, what is the exact rules for us putting things on a ballot, if at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speak without looking at the charter language appropriately, but I can certainly research that.
I think that would be really helpful.
I do think there's value, as Councilmember Demore mentioned, that this is driven by the community. I think that's typically how a petition is initiated and how we've done it in the past. And I think that's typically how it functions, but I will look at the alternative to that.
As an elected official, I am representing the community, and I am definitely willing to hear from the community members, and then my successor will, inherit that as well, but.
I'd like to hear answers first on the initiatives and the process before making a decision on this as a council person. I'd like to know some of the questions that were just asked of the city manager, and this be put on the ballots, because if it could, I would rather go that way than city council making the decision.
Disagree.
Any other discussion?
Just that we have a motion on the table.
Yes, we do. Any other discussion?
I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time on this too, and I think it will be interesting.
I'll go to Ms. Beck for roll.
So first, I'm going to clarify Derek's modified motion that you motioned to have the city manager ask legal counsel to develop an ordinance to bring before council to vote on, to include regulations on on backyard chickens based on Northern Michigan Communities and MSU Extension best practices. And Lindsay seconded.
Chickens and ducks, yes.
Okay, so roll call is Shields.
Aye.
Hold on one second. Sorry. Shields, aye. Walker.
Aye.
Nachtrab,
Aye.
Demore,
No.
and Murphy.
No. Motion passes 3-2. We'll be talking about it at the next one. City council comments, Ward 2, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposal for the duck and water or fowl change came from section 401 of A to the Petoskey Code of Ordinances. Also in that code, in section 401, is the ADU ordinances, the attached dwelling units. And I think I want to encourage this body as they look forward to looking at zoning changes coming before them next year to, when we think about ADUs, and I know that we have not had a lot of requests for ADUs permits. I think we should see that, our perspective should be see that as a problem with the ordinance. And how can we make it more favorable? I say that with both hands open, saying yes. I've spoken with some residents who want to do ADUs, and the costs are a huge barrier, maybe the barrier. But we should also look at redoing the zoning ordinance for ADUs. And if I had to go back and redo one ordinance, it would be this one. And some of the points that I think should be changed are that a ADU, the dwelling, the occupancy of an ADU. I don't think a property owner should have to be dwelling in one of the units. I feel like rental properties should also be allowed to have ADUs that will help create more ADUs. And we have the fear of them being short-term rentals, that is taking care of the short-term rental unit. ADU shall change 600 square feet and bump that up to a higher number of square feet allowed. And then the height of the principal structure, the ADU should be, the language should say it cannot exceed the height of the principal structure, and cross out the 1.5 stories and 16 feet. I will be sharing my recommendations publicly with the community through social media, various means. There are several other changes that I recommend that we do. And so Petoskey community will be hearing more from me about my recommended changes, especially from over there coming next year.
Ward 3, Mr. Knoptrop.
No comments.
Ward 4.
No
Ms.
comment
Walker.
there. Thank you.
Ward 2.
Here
Ward
we did
one.
2-1.
That
Ward
would be me.
1, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to do a shout out, thank you to Dave Troutman. He sends us packages with all kinds of creative efforts to share his ideas. This is a very cool one. It's about putting the logo on Petoskey signage. So I'll share that with the city manager, but just a shout out to him to say thank you. And then I don't know, do you have the pictures from, we've got some, I know that already Brian shared with you, Brian Tang earlier, one of the young people that are on the Petoskey Youth Advisory Council. City manager asked me for some pictures from the events, so we'll see if those come up. In the meantime, too, I just do a brief shout out here. I looked at the lofts at Lumber Square, and this is not to single them out, but it kind of is. On their website for rentals, they have some criteria that I think is really excellent that will help with local housing challenges. And those are the following. Applicants cannot currently own a home unless a sale is pending with a signed purchase agreement. 2, the apartment must be their full-time primary residence for a minimum of 10 months per year. 3, applicants who currently live in Emmett County or work at a business located in Emmett County receive a priority point, placing them higher on the wait list. So I just wanted to do a shout out. for those criteria that I think are really helpful. And unfortunately, the kids aren't here, but this was the Bedlam that is making 300 arrangements. And then I don't know if we got any other ones to share or not.
Yeah.
Let's see what this is the delivery team up the night before the veterans breakfast where they were delivering all the flowers. They're all wrapped up because of the snow. What else have you got, Sarah? This is the guys unloading everything at the venue that night before, after they made 300 arrangements. That's a sampling of what the 300 arrangements look like unloaded. And then this is the team that was there the morning, 6:30 a.m., including Tina. Want that noted for the record. Delivering the arrangements directly to the veterans. And then I think there's one more. Fred Harrington is the host of this breakfast, member of the Tribal Council, LTBB, kind of sharing with the young people the history of the event and welcoming them. So thanking them for their efforts. Thank you.
Maple Block residents have, I believe, moved in this week. I talked to several, happened to talk to several that were excited about moving in. We had a ribbon cutting at Maple Block last Wednesday. Well attended, as well as Victories had their ribbon cutting as well. We are, Arts Commission had a meeting and are looking at narrowing it down from 75 proposals to 25 or 23 for Sunset Park. So I'm sure that we'll be back. I'll be back with you, bringing you what they've looking at. No further business come for this council. I call